Hello and welcome to The Print. My name is Zoya and I bring to you our latest in the Print Great Speeches series where we publish speeches and debates that shaped modern India. In this edition, however, we bring to you an article written by India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. The article, titled The Basic Approach, was published in AICC's Economic Review on 15 August 1958. November being his birthday month, we at The Print decided to look at one of the less remembered events from his political life. So, what did Nehru say exactly? Here's one quote from the article. There is much talk in communism of the contradictions of capitalist society, and there is truth in that analysis. But we see the growing contradictions within the rigid framework of communism itself. Its suppression of individual freedom brings about powerful reactions. Its contempt for what might be called the moral and spiritual side of life not only ignores something that is basic in man, but also deprives human behavior of standards and values. End quote. Nehru's article also drew parallels with fascism and argued how communism's approach stood against the ideals propagated by Gandhi. He wrote, "Fascism has all these evil aspects of violence and extermination in their grossest forms and, at the same time, has no acceptable ideal. This is completely opposed to the peaceful approach which Gandhiji taught us. Communists, as well as anti-communists, both seem to imagine that a principle can only be stoutly defended by language of violence and by condemning those who do not accept it. For both of them, there are no shades. There is only black and white." End quote. Here's another quote where Nehru essentially targeted communism for adopting the same practices that it accuses the capitalist structure of. "Communism has definitely allied itself to the approach of violence," he said. "Even if it does not indulge normally in physical violence, its language is of violence, its thought is violent, and it does not seek to change by persuasion or peaceful democratic pressures, but by coercion and indeed by destruction and extermination." It's an interesting view that belies the common understanding regarding Nehru's pro-communist stance. Let me give you some background. About a year into his term as India's first Prime Minister, Nehru banned the Communist Party of India and its breakaway faction, the Revolutionary Communist Party of India, in West Bengal, accusing them of waging a war against the state. Around the same time, the government used the army to take action against protesters in Hyderabad, while CPI headquarters in Delhi were raided. In February of 1949, Nehru himself admitted in Parliament that his government had arrested 870 communists in the past 10 days. Unsurprisingly, the communists regarded Nehru as a fascist. These developments are surprising because Nehru, after all, was a known Marxist who openly professed his inclination toward communism. In a press statement, for instance, on 18 December 1933, Nehru had said, "There is no middle road between fascism and communism. One has to choose between the two, and I choose the communist ideal. In regard to the methods and approach to this ideal, I may not agree with everything that the orthodox communists have done, but I do think that the basic ideology of communism and its scientific interpretation of history is sound." End quote. During Nehru's prime ministership, his government's pro-communist policies and unflinching support for the Soviets would often grate on the US. However, much to the Americans' delight, his views on communism began to shift. In an interview to the BBC in 1950, he called communists terrorists. But his most uninhibited criticism of communism came in the 1958 letter. Please read the entire article in the Print's Great Speeches series and follow us for more interesting relevant content that shaped modern India.